my screen. That's it. That's fine. Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning for a quick run through on general election campaign impacts, things that we can do from nuclear industry perspective and political engagement during this period. Just to, so everyone's clear, we will be recording this so that we can put it onto the member section of our website in case anybody wants to go back and look at it again, or something that was said, or wants to check something, and also for people who haven't been able to make it today and weren't able to be at the business group yesterday when we ran through the same information. John Woodburn is going to sort of drive the slides, and I'll try to speak to them. But hopefully this will just take you through just a very small number of slides for the next sort of 15 minutes or so, and then answer and try to respond to any questions or clarification points you might have. I don't need to tell you about the NIA, but I do need to tell you about PERDA. So you should see a slide now that just explains what PERDA is. You will have heard this phrase, I think, a number of times. Basically, in a period after when an election is called and until an election happens, there are no members of parliament. They're all candidates, the ones who are standing again, but there is still a government. The government still exists. The government still has administrative functions to undertake in a whole range of different areas, but it operates in a particular way during this period, which is the PERDA period, where there are a number of restrictions that apply to civil servants, and increasingly that's being applied to government bodies who might not be technically the civil service, so organisations that we deal with in the sector, for example, NDA and various others, work under quite strict guidance about what they're able and not able to do. So ongoing things they're able to do, but they can't do anything which looks as though it's influencing or commenting on current or future government policy. As you can imagine, that brings with it quite a lot of restrictions, particularly about events and things that are done in public. Those of you that were there yesterday will know that some of the agenda had to be changed for that reason. It might seem like it's quite an extreme position to take, but having someone speaking on, for example, a GDF on a platform at an event for members is something which the guidance exists to suggest shouldn't be done until after the election. So there are a number of things which you'll already notice will have changed. It also means that during this period, things that are likely to come to a conclusion won't. Things that are underway that were already underway before the elections, called consultations and various processes, those can continue. Just the outcome of those can't be reported to anywhere until after the election. So someone asked about this yesterday. So for example, the technology selection criteria process that GBN is doing on small modular reactor technologies, that is, as I understand it, able to continue because the tender period and process was set before the election was called. Obviously, then there would always have been a period of evaluation of that, and so that can start anyway ahead of an election. So, but other things won't be able to happen and will have to be postponed. If you have any concerns or any issues around PERDA, Layla, who is our head of policy, was a civil servant until she joined us, so is very familiar with all of this. And if there's any questions you've got on that, more detailed questions we're able to answer today, Layla can help, and her email address is on the bottom of that slide. But obviously the most focus of this discussion and what we're talking about is the election itself. There will be a significant churn in members of parliament, so people who are either standing down, people where seats will likely change depending on the outcome of the election. And there is if you look at the polls currently, it looks like a fairly strong possibility there could well be a change of government. Obviously, there's still 4 weeks or so of an election campaign to go, 4 and a bit weeks, so that could change. But as it looks at the moment, there could well be a change of government. Whatever happens, there'll be change of MPs. A lot of MPs, previous MPs, have stood down, particularly a fair number in constituencies with nuclear facilities, for example. And so we'll have a lot of candidates to engage with during the election period. In terms of what it means in relation to nuclear, people who follow some of this may well have seen that last week the Labour Party launched their energy policies in broad sense, talked about Greatrex energy, reference in that to nuclear and need for new nuclear capacity. If you watched the leaders debate that was on television earlier this week on Monday, was it Monday evening, which is Tuesday evening, you will have also seen a reference, albeit a small reference along with a list of other things, but a reference to nuclear in that as well. So nuclear is present. We will see the manifestos coming out next week, and we'll see what they say in relation to that. But we're starting from a position where, unlike sometimes in previous elections where they might not wanted to use the word, that nuclear is being referenced and is likely to be referenced in manifestos in a way which is complementary to the NIA manifesto that I'll come on to talk about in a second. Does mean though that our positioning on nuclear, why nuclear arguments that we make, there are some subtle adaptations that we make during the course of an election. During an election, people are focused on their constituencies or hopeful constituencies, so much more emphasis on job creation, local impact in terms of skills development, spreading opportunities, particularly in some of those constituencies, is something which is worth emphasising, particularly in this period, alongside the sort of higher level arguments or the more across the board arguments on impact on minimising use of fossil fuels, energy security, predictability of price, etc. All the things that we know we're familiar with. And we want to make sure there's an emphasis on continuing new build rollout. I mean, for ensuring that people don't think that having Hinkley under construction and Sizewell close to FID is job done. We obviously know that it's not. There's a lot more to do beyond that, both in terms of SMRs and gigawatt projects, and we need to make sure we embed that in the messaging during the next few weeks. What we want to encourage you to do and your companies to do, particularly where you've got sites that people can visit, is to engage with candidates. There is a website address on that slide, which will give you a sense of how things are looking in your constituency or the constituencies, how close it looks at the moment, and from 4 o'clock today, all of the candidates have to be registered, so we know definitively who the candidates are. But in most cases, they've been in place for a while already. And what we need and want people to be able to do is target candidates, particularly those where you may have someone who is a candidate against somebody who has previously been an MP, where we think there may be a change. Make sure you engage with both candidates or the main party candidates to get the messages across. Particularly, actually, I can say this with experience: if you're a candidate before an election and you're contacted by and engaged by a company, an employer in your constituency, it tends to help very much having had some contact ahead of the first time you're elected, because as soon as you are elected, you're inundated with lots and lots of contact. Trying to get to those candidates early and before an election really will help pay dividends, particularly given we anticipate there'll be some issues relating to our policy agenda that will be quite high on the agenda after the election. John, who's on the call and driving the slides and everything else, hopefully you will know, John's email address is on there, and he can provide more guidance as well as being able to answer questions today on how to do all of this. Into the next slide, John. It's pretty clear what candidates want. They want to know what it is that the impact is, what it is that you do, where the opportunities are in their constituency that will come from nuclear activity, what it means in terms of jobs, what it means in terms of capability, what the potential could be. All of those issues are things that they want. They like local stories. They like photo opportunities. They also like to be given something to do or something they can help with, practical. So the request, they will quite often ask you, what can I do to help? Have an answer ready for that, even if it is only as simple or straightforward as saying support plans for nuclear in the new parliament, but ideally something that's relevant and local. Finding your candidates, as I said, you've got your previous MP as they were before they stood down. You can find that on the Parliament website. To find your Labour candidate where you've got a Conservative currently in place or has been the MP, you can find that on the Labour Party website. I think it's, as I said, it's from today, from 4 o'clock today, all of the candidates have to be logged. I think hopefully the Conservative Party have something similar on their website in relation to their candidates, so there's a lot of late selections happening, but they all have to be done by 4 p.m. today, and then thereafter your local authorities will also have them. But if you need any help trying to find out or ascertain who your candidates are, how to contact them, we do also have contact with most of them, or contact details. So we've got to be careful obviously about GDPR, but a lot of this is publicly listed. So again, John and team will be able to help with that if you need to do that. What we'd like you to be able to do is ideally make contact, explain who you are, how you're important to their constituency, invite them on a visit, particularly if you've got a facility, give them a tour, sit down with them at the end of that over a cup of tea and talk them through some key points. It really is fairly straightforward as that, but it is time sensitive. It has to be in the next 3 or 4 weeks really, and ideally encourage them to, as well as the importance on your business and what you're doing, link that to the importance of nuclear, be it working decommissioning, new build, large, small, advanced reactor designs, all of that, and encourage them to sign up to the NIA manifesto and ideally to become members of the Nuclear Energy All-Party Group in the new Parliament. There is, I think, John, isn't there? There's a how to write to your MP sort of guidance sheet on how to contact candidates, which that's on the member section of the website. Is that right? Yeah. So you can find that there. But again, contact John or the team if you want to know more about that. Some very clear messages that we want to be able to get across. The importance of nuclear in terms of net zero and energy security, reducing the reliance on imported gas, the importance of nuclear in terms of providing clean, reliable, scalable power, the importance of nuclear in relation to reliability and not being reliant on other than extremes of the weather, the importance in terms of nuclear of price stability and therefore affordability, and therefore the minimizing the economic exposure of being reliant on importing volatile pricing of fossil fuels, the importance of nuclear in terms of jobs, the value of those jobs, what that means both in terms of the global figures which are on there and come from studies that we've done, as well as what it means for you locally. These are the things we want to try to lodge into the minds of candidates during this period. You should always start from the basis that they don't know anything or don't know very much at all. Very few candidates are in a position to be, unless they've got some previous involvement in an expert in anything. They've got to range across a whole range of local and national issues. So keeping it clear, simple, straightforward and relevant is the key thing to do, rather than going into necessarily huge amounts of detail. We want to land the key messages. We have developed a manifesto, or 3 manifestos actually, a nuclear manifesto, which is aimed at candidates. That's why it is quite simple. That's why it's very high level. It's not screeds and screeds of detail. It doesn't go into technical detail at all, deliberately and intentionally. It's not, there isn't anything that sits behind this, but this is about high level messages and trying to garner support from candidates for those main factors. You can see what they are on there, but they include around the impending final investment decision on Sizewell C, fleet of SMR, further large scale new build, importance in relation to fuel, the supply chain opportunities that come from new build and decommissioning, and the GDF as the sort of big headline points that we want to get people to sign up to, working towards and agreeing to progress during the period they're in Parliament. A number of candidates have signed up to this. We always want to get more. I suspect that once the manifestos are published, and if this is consistent with the party manifesto, we'll be able to get more to do it. Depending on how that goes in numbers, we may well do some publicity around some of that, but that isn't the main purpose of this. The main purpose of this is really to have something very clear that we can use as the first engagement with a number of people who could well be quite key and critical to us over the next few years. This is the Welsh version. Basically covers the same ground, but just highlights particularly the impacts in terms of supply chain opportunities that come from projects outside of Wales for companies that are based in Wales, and some specific Welsh references in terms of Wilfer and Trawsfynydd as well. And then for Scotland, which is slightly different, because in Scotland there is currently a devolved government with a stance which is sceptical of nuclear. That government may well change, not as a result of this election, but when the next Scottish Parliament elections happen. But increasingly in Scotland, there is more and more debate about the reality of not having new development in Scotland, what that means, as well as a sense that the current Scottish government's lack of interest may well impact on opportunities in the supply chain. So for companies from Scotland. So there's a sort of Scottish version of it, which is basically about not ruling it out, and then covering some of the same issues around where the opportunities are for companies based in Scotland, or people who work for companies who happen to live in Scotland. So they're the slight subtleties of difference between the main one, the Welsh, and the Scottish version, but they are not. None of them are inconsistent or contradictory of each other. I think I've just said in terms of site visits, you've got a site somewhere you can take people, something you can show people, whether it's something that technology you have on your site, or processes that happen on your site, things that you can provide a sort of photo opportunity with a bit of equipment, or some sort of hard hat, high vis. It sounds corny, but they do work, particularly if you're able to include some apprentices or diverse group of employees, or people you've taken on, or something that demonstrates the link between jobs and opportunity within a constituency and the company is something which candidates like. They like to see something rather than just have a presentation in an office or a boardroom, although you can do that and combine the two, but do that again, keeping it fairly high level. Again, something that we can help with if you want any guidance on how to do this. I know a number of companies have been in contact, and a number of visits have been, or are in the process of being arranged, that we've been advising and guiding on. That's what we're here for, partly to be able to help with that, where you might need any help or support. There's some bullet points here which we can take you through about things you want to do, but make sure you've got clear in terms of relation to timing. They won't give you a day, they won't give you half a day, or try and contain everything within sort of an hour or two, to give them a tour and get them involved, and get some discussion happening at the end of it to land some of those key messages. Ideally, in this world of social media, as well as getting photo opportunities, see if you can get them to agree to do, and try and do this in advance, or they'll record a short video you can use on your social media, they can use on theirs. Doesn't have to be anything very detailed. Give you an example, Ed Miliband visited Hartlepool Power Station on Monday of this week. EDF put a clip out on their social media. It's literally, I think it's 20 seconds, not even 30 seconds, with just a quote from him talking as he was, pictures of him walking on the site, saying how important it is for the local community, how much energy there is from a relatively small site, how important it is for wider ambitions, and long may it continue. That's the ideal sort of thing we want to try to get a collection of, that we can therefore have and use and refer to and bring back to people's attention after the election. And don't just leave it to them to post. If you're able to post on your social media and other channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, what was Twitter, X, whatever it's called now, whatever are the ones that you most frequently use. So that's just a quick run through of some of the key points that will go on the members part of the website. We're here to help and support. if there are any questions that you have following on from this, or any questions that you have now, John and I, between us, hopefully we'll be able to answer them or get back to you. So if you have any questions, if you are able to put them into the chat or the Q&A bit, and John, I'm going to rely on you because I'm doing this from my phone. If you can read out what any questions are, any points anyone's made that we need to or want to respond to, or provide a bit more detail or clarity on.
You can also raise your hand in Teams and unmute yourself, and also ask your question as well. Sam asks, how do they sign the manifesto? So we're approaching all the PPCs from the Conservatives and Labour, Sam, asking them to sign the manifesto for their region. Simply signing it is just responding to us and saying, yeah, we will assign it. And then what we will do on our side is publish maybe a press release or a note on the hub saying these are the candidates in these constituencies which have signed the manifesto. And in return as well, we issue them with a press release that they can talk about locally, saying that they're supporting new nuclear and they're endorsing the 5 aims and campaign points of the NIA in the next Parliament between 2024 and 2029. But we can share this list over the next few weeks of who signed up locally as well.
Any other questions? No. Good. Well, in that case, thank you very much for taking a little bit of time this morning. As I said, anything that strikes you afterwards, or anything you want to clarify, please do get in touch with Layla, with John, with myself, or anybody else in the team. You know where we are and how to get hold of us. Just let us know, and please do encourage you, if you're able to facilitate and get candidates to visit in the next couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, then please do. It really will help. Really will help to sort of set a relationship, and both for you and for the industry generally, to sort of set the scene for the next Parliament, where a number of big things will need to happen, whoever happens to be in government from July the 5th onwards.
And just lastly, Jake has asked the question, how can we see how party members have voted regarding nuclear in the past? If you go to a website called theyworkforyou.com, you can enter your postcode or enter the member's name. And if you type in the word nuclear, you can see every bill or vote regarding nuclear and see if they voted yes or no for that particular motion. And then you can obviously screenshot that and email your local candidate, email your local party member, and just say, why have you voted for or against? And then you can also do it with the PPC as well.
Okay. No others, John? No? Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your joining. Thanks for your attention. Get in touch if you want any guidance. Hopefully you can get some visits and engagement from your local candidates. As I said, really important to try to maximise what we can do over the next couple of weeks in terms of doing this. I know it's something else to do at a busy time already, but it really will help for the next few years in establishing those relationships. Thank you very much. Have a good day.